Lieutenant Mattia, last name spelling is M-A-T-I-A, Crimes Against Persons Section Commander. Just an update on the homicide, just to refresh everybody's memory. On December 9th, at around 10:50 p.m., officers were dispatched to the 900 block of North Cleveland for shots fired. When they arrived on scene, they located the victim in the case, Ephraim Shulu. What at that time it had appeared to be he was injured from a gunshot wound. He was transported to Vera McKinnon Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased shortly after 11 p.m. Since then, I've been working around the clock since that time, and yet late yesterday afternoon, we did identify a suspect in this case, and that person's last name is Montaleu. Spelling is M-O-N-T-I-L-E-A-U-X. First name is Devon, D-E-V-O-N, middle of Moses, M-O-S-E-S. He's a 17-year-old male who was here in town visiting one of his friends. He originally, we believe he's from Pierre or the Rapid City area, and the Minnehaha County Fugitive Task Force is currently working on locating him. He has a $100,000 cash only bond for this warrant for first-degree manslaughter. In this particular case, it's causing someone's death by means of a dangerous weapon. I can tell you what the investigation led to is Ephraim and another individual arranged to meet with our suspect and another individual for a transaction of marijuana. During that, something went awry, and all the individuals being armed except for one of them, a disagreement took place about basically what was going to occur was a robbery. An exchange of gunfire occurred in that parking lot of that building there in the 900 block. As Ephraim was fleeing the area, we believe he was struck by a bullet. We're still waiting for forensic evidence, obviously, to identify what type of weapon or caliber that was, but we know at a minimum there was 3 firearms involved. One of those being a 38 caliber, a 40 caliber, and 9mm. But obviously, we're still waiting for forensic testing on that, and we've conducted numerous search warrants in reference to this, looking for other details to support what we've already concluded. I'll just take some questions because you guys are usually a little bit better at that than me. So, okay.
You said there was a robbery, or there was going to be an attempted robbery. Who was attempting to rob who?
The information leads us to believe, until we get something otherwise, is that our victim in this case, Mr. Shulu, and his counterpart entered the back seat of a vehicle and produced weapons to potentially rob or take money away from the people who were there to purchase marijuana. We still haven't identified that second subject, because I mean that's going to be the question that's going to be asked is, who is the other person with Ephraim? Well, they're not coming forward. The only thing I can tell you is they were let out of the car by the victim, or not the victim, sorry, they were let out of the car by the suspect and the driver of the vehicle, let him out of the car, let him walk away. In exchange, Shulu comes back at a certain point, and there's obviously a disagreement, and that's when the shots start taking place and cars are struck, and in this case, Ephraim Shulu was struck as well. As the suspect and the driver of the vehicle tried to leave the parking lot, the person who they let out of the back that was with Ephraim ran by and started shooting at their vehicle again several times, and then went to a car that Ephraim and he arrived to the location in. And as Ephraim laid on the ground, dying from his wounds, he drove right by him. He was in that car, drove right by him, never stopped to help him. I would say his quote-unquote friend did not stop and help him. They left the area and left him lying there until officers got there and transported him for medical attention. That's about what I have on that. Sorry, I'll give you a little bit more.
Yeah, who was the person selling the marijuana?
We don't know exactly who that was. We have that person, we believe we have that person identified right now. Don't know if that was the actual individual in the car or not. We're still working that angle of it, because I think we have a duty to locate everybody that was with Ephraim as well. We're not getting any cooperation. We talked about that yesterday, and we're not going to, for the most part. But we have other ways of investigating things to locate people that are responsible for crimes. Obviously, those are investigative techniques I'm not going to lead to, but most people know them, what the techniques are. But once we locate him, we'll be able to get an arrest warrant for that person as well, because they are responsible for other crimes that occurred at that location that night. So we're going to try and hold as many people accountable as we can.
How many shell casings?
Yeah, still don't have an exact number on that. I just know it was quite a few. So we're at least over 10 shell casings that we have. Also, Ephraim had in his possession, he had a .38 caliber pistol, which is a revolver. So we know we have spent casings within the cylinder of that firearm. Don't know if those were actually shot. I know some of them were shot that night, but I just don't know how many at this point. We're still analyzing certain things. Sir?
The raid on Wayne Avenue last night, was that in connection with this homicide at all?
Yes, it was. So,
So what are you going to be charging this individual? What are the charges again?
first degree manslaughter. It's a $100,000 cash only bond right now. And once a case goes to, this is obviously just arrest warrant at this point, but once it goes to grand jury, that can always be increased to a second degree murder or a first. It's up to the prosecution what they decide to do at that point. At a minimum, we know it's first degree manslaughter.
And his age is 17?
He's 17 years old, yes. And he's direct file into adult court. What was it?
The warrant also has second degree murder on it.
Okay, so they did include second degree murder, because I don't have a copy of that. All right, perfect. So second degree murder is included, so there we go. And it's a $100,000 bond. And I think, but from your question, you'll say it was a 17-year-old again. I guess that's the story within the story. How many juveniles now do we have in our community that are charged with attempted murder, homicide, or aggravated assault on law enforcement from the protests this summer? Truly, that would be the story within the story, and why is it happening? So I know that we have to investigate it. That's my lane for my assignment, is we're investigating these crimes the best that we can with limited information, and that's happened more and more. But hopefully there's a change somewhere that we don't have to continue to do this. So, do you have any other questions at all?
Were any drugs found on scene, and if so, what were the quantities?
Yep, so there was you'll have the amount in the affidavit. There was a user amount of marijuana that was located and some cash. Good?
I think it was 2 days ago, maybe yesterday, that we said we're not getting much cooperation. How did we get to where we are today?
Diligent hard work by detectives. Basically, that's what it comes down to, is tracking people down and getting as many people as we can to give us any bit of information. If yesterday, when Officer Clemens and I discussed this before he came down here, we were at a rough point yesterday where we didn't think it was going to break. And personally, we don't leave here until it does. Like I said, we're here 24 hours. We're trying to do the right thing. There's no cases where a detective is under more scrutiny or has a higher expectation from the community than a homicide case. And I'm not minimizing any other cases that we investigate, but we personally are well invested into doing what's right for our victims. In this case, Ephraim. And I'm sorry, I just went on a tangent. What was your question again, sir? I'm sorry.
It was just how did we get to where we are today from where we were having?
So, yep, hard work from the detectives. We tracked a lot of people down throughout the state. It was a cooperative effort with other agencies within the state trying to track people down that we realized may have been in that area. We did a lot of review of cameras from businesses, Ring doorbell cameras, or traffic cameras that we have in the city, and trying to identify people in a vehicle. It's not the easiest thing to do when you have a black and white image of the interior of a vehicle and you're trying to ID people. So we track it down by looking at what the vehicle looks like, how we can get any descriptors on it, and we put the information out to the officers on the street, and the officers on the street are out there hitting the pavement, doing their job. In between calls of service they're going to, trying to look for suspect vehicles or information. We were able to get 2 vehicles in this and get those in quickly afterwards to be able to have a search warrant, and they were the vehicles involved, and that's what led us to certain people that were in those vehicles. But definitely hard work and dedication to the effort. So we're basically advocates for our victim, I would say that's our duty, is being advocates for the victim, so that for Ephraim's family, no matter what occurred that night, he didn't need to die. He didn't need to be shot. That being said, we're here for his victim, for his family, and for him to be an advocate for them. So,
And, last question, is there any danger to the public with this guy out there?
I don't, no, he was known to the, I would say there's a danger. I would always tell people to be aware of their surroundings. We all should be. Obviously, some things have changed in the past recent years where people have a higher propensity for violence. That's just nationwide. But be aware of your surroundings. The Warrants Task Force, Fugitive Task Force, is working on locating him. They've been working on this since last night and trying to locate him. I don't feel that there's a danger for the public at this time. He should be considered armed and dangerous. If you see him, definitely call it in if you believe. Once they give you the photos and they find out who he is, give us a call and we'll come out, or the Fugitive Task Force will come out and work on apprehending him. But they're doing so diligently.
That apartment search last night, that was just in connection with it then?
Yep, I was in connection with it. I think I saw you out there. But yeah, sometimes we do search warrants that don't always lead to information. But and I don't like to say just checking a box, but we're going to do everything we can in the investigative process, because we have a duty to a defendant to do that as well. It's not just to prosecution, but we have a duty to the defendant to make sure that we're doing everything we can to either prove or disprove what we believe happened. So we were clearing up some things on a search, yes.
Did this suspect in this case, did he have any prior charges?
No, none that I know of. Not an extensive history. He was a juvenile at that point, so I wouldn't be able to speak to those anyways. I can only speak to what he's direct filed into as an adult court. You guys good?